Welcome back. And if you're stopping by for the first time, welcome to a space where we talk about finding joy, choosing peace, and living life with intention. Today, we're talking about bullying, exclusion, and the shame that sometimes kids carry quietly. Both Abby and I will be talking about our personal experiences of being bullied. I didn't share my story until last year. I stayed quiet for decades. We'll talk about what it feels like to be bullied, why kids stay quiet, and what they need to feel safe enough to speak up. My hope is that this conversation will be a reminder to anyone still carrying an old wound that the shame was never yours to carry. Come on.
It's the Don't Be a Miserable Cow podcast with your host, Lisa Marshall.
Abby Rancourt recently graduated from the UConn School of Social Work with her master's degree and a certificate in child, youth, and behavioral health. She hopes to become a school-based clinical social worker supporting children with neurological and learning differences. What I love about Abby's story is that this work is personal for her. She knows what it feels like to be misunderstood, and now she wants to become the kind of safe, compassionate adult every child deserves. Abby loves going to the gym, practicing yoga, and hiking, which has helped her build confidence, discipline, and a deeper sense of strength. I'm so grateful to have Abby here for this conversation. Hi, Abby.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm terrific. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you for being here today. I'm so grateful that you're here because this conversation is important on many levels. We're going to talk about bullying, and we're going to talk about some experiences that we've both had and hopefully help people feel comfortable about speaking out about their experiences too. So thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Abby, what first drew you to social work?
Well, I think I've always had an interest in psychology. So people's behaviors, people's actions, why people behave a certain way. I've also had an interest too in like mental health disorders, so like depression, anxiety, just like learning all about that really interests me. And social work is all about the people in their environment. Like how does that kind of influence like who they are?
Right.
I originally wanted to go to school for psychology, but I feel like if I went to school for social work, I can make more of a difference. So while I was doing my schooling, I was also helping others at the same time.
Love that. And you want to work with kids?
Yes, I do want to work with
Nice.
kids.
Why do you want to work with kids?
Well, kids are one of the most vulnerable populations, especially, in a child welfare setting. They're still learning about the world, and every child deserves a safe adult. Sometimes they just don't have that, depending on their situation. It's very, very important for me. I was always drawn to that type of social work, and especially because I've worked with kids for about 10 years now. It's been a really long time, starting from babysitting to then my first job was a camp counselor. And then eventually I became pretty good at it, just being that safe adult in a school. And that's where kids also spend most of their time too. So you see, you kind of start to learn what their family dynamics are like, how they behave. And so I think that's why I want to specifically work with the child and adolescent population.
I think you'll be really good at it too.
Oh, thank you.
How did your own childhood experiences shape the path?
I was an outcast growing up most of the time. And I never really knew how to express my emotions when I was in school.
Yeah.
School was always a struggle for me. So just having, I didn't really have that safe adult.
You've shared with me that you have ADHD. What was school like for you with ADHD?
Definitely in my earlier childhood, it was very difficult. And it was also very confusing because I knew from way as far back as I can remember, like, that something was wrong. And I wasn't really sure what it was, if it was my appearance, if it was because maybe I was a little more awkward than some of the other kids, right? I couldn't really like put a finger on like what was wrong.
Right.
So, but I always knew in my head that like something,
Something's up.
yeah, like something was going on.
Right.
So it was just like a lot of confusion. And, you know, like I said before, I was always the outcast. In kindergarten, for example, there was 9 of us in a class. So there were 5 girls and 4 boys. And I was always the one who was left out, who didn't have a partner.
Oh.
And so that's kind of where it all
It's
started.
so hurtful.
Yeah, it definitely, you know, it is something that you remember, right? Middle school was tough because then I was kind of like, you know, the outcast. I would be left out of parties and that my friends were going to, or I wouldn't be invited to hang out.
How did that affect your confidence?
I would say it definitely affected my confidence. I mean, I was never really shy to the point where like I wouldn't speak, but I was always afraid. You know, I was kind of in like a shell. This went all the way up till 8th grade, all the way up until my sophomore year. I didn't know what was going on. So
you weren't diagnosed until then?
I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD until I was 16.
Wow.
Which is actually really late for
Yeah.
an ADHD diagnosis, because most kids are diagnosed in 1st or 2nd grade, so early elementary school. So to be going through school and part of high school all the way until I was almost 16. I was 15 because it was December of 2014. I went to a Catholic school, so there wasn't any of that mental health support. It was just teachers and admin. That was it.
Did you feel misunderstood? Well, you didn't know what you were going through.
Mm-hmm.
So how could you express what you were going through?
There would be times where I would do impulsive things in school. I would get frustrated and I would take it out on someone, but there was never really a healthy way to express that I was feeling misunderstood, that I was feeling kind of invisible.
What do you wish teachers and classmates knew?
That's a really hard question, because ADHD, like a diagnosis for ADHD was not common back then. It was a thing, but it wasn't common. So they're really, like, I don't blame any teachers for how they, you know, responded to my behaviors, or like, I don't blame any of my classmates because we weren't taught this in schools. We weren't taught how to include everyone.
When did you first realize that you were being treated differently?
One instance that came up, and I remember this very, very clearly. We were at the line for the bus because we were being dismissed early, and my friend's birthday was coming up. She said to me straight up, she goes, "Everyone's invited to my birthday party except you, because my aunt said you weren't invited." And I was like, and as a 6-year-old, that
hurts your feelings.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
That stings.
Yeah.
I remember being very sad about it.
Yeah.
Definitely. I don't know what I did. I think I like told my mom. My mom told her mom and said, you know, look, like, this isn't okay. So that was definitely one of the things that, you know, stuck out for sure. And then,
did it happen more often?
I would, yeah. Like, I was always the last one to get picked. In gym class, I was always the odd one out, never had a partner.
How did it affect your confidence throughout school?
I tried to be more confident, but then once I got to middle school, that was really tough. I started to think more about, oh, maybe it is my looks, right? Maybe I'm not as pretty as everyone else in my class, right? Or maybe I'm not as I'm a little more awkward than everyone else in my class.
So a different kind of exclusion.
Yeah. Yeah. So I felt, I did have very low confidence. I felt invisible, and really until, my freshman year of high school got much better.
Oh, good.
It did get better, but it was still hard.
Why do you think it got better?
So I went from a Catholic school to a large public high school. So there's a lot more diversity within the public school setting compared to the Catholic school.
Okay.
So I got to meet my people, some people that I was able to vibe with, and kind of an uplifting and make me like school a little more. But I was still,
it had to help your confidence too.
Yeah, it definitely did. I joined the cheer team as well. Yeah, so that was good. But also, again, like on the cheer team, and also I was a dancer, like that same kind of exclusion kind of took place a little bit. But I still kind of put myself out there, like, okay, let's try something
good for you.
new.
That's very brave.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can't do that.
Yeah. And it was very nerve-wracking at first, but I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. If not, then I have my group of people that I feel safe with.
Yeah. You just got your master's degree. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So incredible.
Thank you so much.
But the point is that you stuck it out, even though you had such a terrible start as far as your experience with school. You told me the other day about a story about a teacher who wasn't very nice to you. Would you share that story?
Yeah. I know it was some point in middle school. I'm not sure what grade I was in, but I remember it very clear to this day. This was during math class. I sat in the front of the room and all the way to the right side.
You can remember every detail.
Yeah. So the thing with ADHD is that it's common to kind of lose track, right? To lose focus. Teachers would, point me out on it in front of everyone and say, hey, Abby, like, look up. This instance in particular, I actually was writing down notes in my notebook. As I was doing that, I didn't even notice, but my teacher, he went over to the little tray where all the chalk was sitting. He got a handful of chalk dust and he went up to me and he clapped it in my face in front of everyone.
That is horrific.
And it was very horrific.
How did that make you feel?
It was awful. It felt humiliating. It felt horrific. Every bad feeling. Embarrassed.
I'm so sorry that happened to you. Oh. And the fact that you can that you can remember everything about that day, that situation, where you sat in the class, what you were doing. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And I sat there. It was in my hair. It was in my face. I even breathed some of it in. A whole roar of laughter all around the classroom. When tears well up in your eyes.
Oh, but and your face is so red and hot and you're just mortified.
And I didn't want to cry to make it even more humiliating. So I don't remember if I ran to the bathroom in that moment or if I asked to use the bathroom, but I remember going down to the bathroom at some point and 2 girls in my class followed me and even they knew that it was very wrong. And they were helping me get the chalk out of my hair.
Well,
they were
thank goodness you had some support from your peers.
Yeah. So that was a moment where I definitely felt reassured.
It's pretty terrible when the people that are supposed to be your safe people, the teachers, aren't safe and they're bullying you.
Yeah.
What did you do? Who did you tell? Did you have a safe person to tell?
I told my dad. Both my parents are definitely, my safe people. I remember getting in the car and my dad said, always the first question my parents ask, how's your day today? And I just immediately, everything in me started, I was crying, I was sobbing, and he was driving home and he was like, what happened? And I told him everything, and he immediately took a U-turn right after I said that and went back to the school, marched in the school while I sat in the car. And I don't know like what conversation occurred between him. I know he did talk to my teacher because he said he did.
I'm so proud of your dad right now.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
I kind of had an idea that my dad would do that, even though he's not a very confrontational person.
He loves you and he's going to support you.
Yeah. And I knew like that they were my safe people, especially if an incident like this happens again to me or to anyone else.
Yeah, there's got to be somebody that you can talk to, even if it's not your parents. So who is that at school?
When I got to high school, though, because everything was so different, there were mental health counselors and support. That person I had, felt safe talking to was my high school social worker, who's also my cheer coach. Even though she was very strict, there were times where she would put me right in my place. And I didn't know that I needed it at the time, but I thank her a lot for it. Because she was my safe person to talk to when I was at school if things were getting tough. But because I was becoming a teenager, sometimes I was also a little bit of a brat too, so
weren't we all?
Yes. So
me too.
Yep. So if she had to kick me off the cheer team for something, like she would. If I was getting an F in something, she would like calm me down and talk to me about it, but really kind of dive deeper into like, okay, how are you feeling? What's going on? Rather than just, why are you getting an F in this class?
Right.
We all, like everything we do, everything, like how we react to things, it's all for different reasons.
Experiences.
Yeah. It's
environment.
All, right. Environment, experiences, how we were raised.
Mm-hmm. I think we carry the weight of bullying and we feel guilty. We feel guilt about it, even though it's not ours to carry.
I completely agree with that.
And so her diving deeper with you, helping you to understand how you're feeling and what's happening is fantastic.
Yeah.
And you felt safe with her.
Yeah. I wasn't choosing to get an F. And I mean, I wasn't great in school.
It's not like, I'm not trying. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
You're trying.
I was trying and things weren't working. And I never wanted to fail. I always wanted to do really well. But as early as kindergarten, like I knew something was wrong because I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to make my teachers disappointed.
Of course not. Or your parents or yourself.
Yeah. I didn't want my parents to be disappointed. I didn't want to be the one that was always kind of the outcast, right? That there was a reason for that.
When kids are bullied, why do you think they stay quiet about it?
People will kind of undermine someone else's experience. I'm not saying everyone, but it is a common thing. And that's a stigma around bullying.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah. So like the story that I told you about my teacher clapping chalk dust in my face. If I tell someone about it who was in my class, they would say, that never happened to you.
So like gaslighting?
Yeah, kind of like a gaslighting. If I say that happened, someone else would try to say something like, oh, well, my teacher did much worse, right? But that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's how it made you feel.
Right. Because bullying from a teacher, no matter what it is, is still wrong no matter what. So yeah, I think kids do stay quiet about bullying because they're afraid of getting shamed for it. Also too, victim blaming is a big thing. And I learned a lot about this in school as well.
I'd love to hear more.
Yeah. So victim blaming is when someone sees the victim as maybe they triggered something in the perpetrator.
Got it.
Right? So, for example, a rape victim, right? It's very often that they get blamed for what they were wearing, right?
That's
or
that's the example that came to my mind.
Yeah, or how they approach the person, right? Did they irritate the person? Were they, seducing the person, right? Rather than the rapist. Right. And, part of my job as a social worker is I want to educate people to not blame the victim. And that doesn't just happen in rape cases. It happens in bullying. It happens in child predator cases. It can happen in any case.
Right.
So that's what I want to be, an advocate for that, to not victim blame.
I wish I had you when I was in school.
Oh,
yeah. I had a tough period in my life too. I was bullied when I was in school. When I was 12, I all of a sudden had bigger breasts than every girl in my grade. And the boys loved it and the girls hated it. And the girls started a rumor that I was stuffing my bra with tissues. And when we were in the hallway in school, people would put tissues in my pocket, in my back pocket of my jeans. It was Lisa stuffs all the time. That escalated to, and I felt humiliated because obviously it wasn't true, but people were looking at my body. I didn't want to be looked at. Then it went to people started calling my home. And when I would get on the phone, they would say things like slut, whore, bitch, you stuff. And I was alienated and mortified and just shrunk and had no confidence and no self-esteem. All of this escalated one day when it was summertime and I was 13 years old. And I went to the community pool with my friend. And she wanted to lay out and, lay on her towel and get a tan. And I was hot. I wanted to go for a swim. So I went in, there were two pools, like a big pool and then just an adults only pool. So I wanted to go to the adults only pool. And when I got in the pool, it was just by myself, just cooling off and, kind of swimming around. And there were 3 guys in the pool. And they were the very popular, very boisterous, people in my grade, all basketball players, superstars. And the lifeguard blew the whistle saying that it was time for anybody who wasn't over 18 to get out of the pool. And so I was heading towards the ladder to get out of the pool, and these 3 guys cornered me. They cornered me, and I couldn't stand where I was. They were much taller than I was. So I was gasping for breath, and I was going under the water, and they were surrounding me with their long arms and long legs. And I just felt so trapped. And they proceeded to take my bikini top off to check whether or not I had tissues in my bikini top. And so by the time my top was off and floating in front of me, they were gazelling out of the pool, and I was left with these emotions and trying to fumble to get my top back on. And I was mortified and humiliated. I was 13 years old. I finally told someone last year because I was so humiliated.
Well, Lisa, I want to thank you for sharing that. And it does take a lot of courage and bravery to share something like that. I can't even imagine, going through an experience like that. It shows how much you've overcome this, right? To share it and to put it in your book, right?
Yeah, I had a conversation with producer fiance Jonathan, and I told him about it. And after I got it off my chest for the first time when I was 58 years old, I felt like it was important, like it wasn't so bad to say it. And so I just gave it a whole chapter in my book, and it did feel better. It felt a lot better to talk about it instead of hide it and feel all that shame. But the interesting thing now as an adult is I never, ever, ever thought about telling anyone. Why is that?
I'm assuming it was the fear of being stigmatized and being blamed for your actions.
I probably shouldn't have worn that bathing suit, is probably what I was thinking.
Yeah. Did you have a lot of self-blame? Like, years after?
Sure. My confidence, I had no confidence. Mm-hmm. My self-esteem was in the toilet. It was terrible.
And I want to also share something with you that traumatic experiences, there's no timeline on whether we share them, right? Sometimes we share them a year after they happen. Sometimes it's several years. Sometimes it's decades, right? But it's all about what you're comfortable with, even if it's not sharing it at all. You know, everyone has kind of their different, how do I say it, like tolerance for things. That's kind of whether they're okay sharing it a year or several years afterwards, right?
And also with who?
Yeah, and with who as well.
Right. What do you think helps a kid now to feel safe enough to speak up?
One factor is definitely validating their feelings. Even if that means they're having really, I like to call it, with especially the younger ones, big feelings. So feelings of anger, feelings of sadness. They don't need an explanation to feel that way.
Right.
Right? Because everyone's, like I said, everyone's tolerance is different.
Sure.
You know, one thing that might make a kid feel sad, another kid might not worry about.
Right.
Right? So validating their feelings and really boosting their confidence with everything, right? How they raise their hand in class and share with their teacher, and how they share something with a friend, right? Just like very little things that we don't really see as like kind of a big deal is a very big deal to them, because they're still learning. They're still exploring the world.
If a child is being bullied in some way and they feel safe enough to talk about it and to tell someone, how can we as adults, parents, teachers respond appropriately to them?
One of the best ways to respond to that, if, you know, a child comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm being bullied in school," validate their feelings. So if they've been feeling anger or sadness, right? Because that's one of the safe things, is to explore those feelings. Because kids, especially younger kids, experience these feelings, but they don't really know what that is. They don't know, they don't really have a concept of like what anger is or sadness is. So,
especially the little ones.
Yeah. So kind of exploring these different emotions, right? And then being an advocate for your child, going to the school or talking to the parent, right? But having calm conversation, right?
Not finger pointing. It's like, how can we resolve this? What steps can we take to make sure this isn't going to continue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what like my role is. I kind of want to be that person to say, okay, let's explore your feelings a little bit. You're being bullied. I personally too also like the restorative practice. So
tell me about that.
A restorative practice is where, mostly in the elementary school setting, this is more effective, but I would sit 2 kids down, talk to each kid, hear each side, and then we would all come together, the 3 of us, and I would give each of them a turn. So one will tell their side of the story, one will tell their other side of the story, right? And each get an equal turn to share.
Love that.
And then how did it make them feel, right? So what happened? How did it make them feel? And how can we resolve this? How can we make it better? I'm not only giving my input, but they're also able to give each other their input as well.
Right.
So it's not just me telling them like, oh, do this, oh, be better, right? It's they're communicating like they should, right? And that's what they're learning to do.
Those are skills that they'll have for their whole life.
Yeah. That's the whole.
So great.
Yeah. So that's a whole.
That's so rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's great. It's one of my favorite therapeutic practices in a school setting.
Especially when they're little like that. I can just see them with their, with their little legs bent and talking to each other, talking about their feelings and communicating and resolving it.
Yeah.
My grandson had a problem with bullying. And so here's another thing. This is interesting. So there was someone in his class who was telling the teacher that he was doing things that he wasn't doing. And so then he was getting in trouble for doing the things that he wasn't doing. And obviously when you're 5 or 6 years old, your safe person, your safe people are your parents. And so of course they went and talked to the teacher, and there were other instances of exclusion and things like that. So I would ask him about it. How's school? How's so-and-so? Are you guys friends? And, what's going on? Trying to, prod a little bit and find out what was going on. And sometimes he would lie to me and he would say, everything's great. Oh, I love her. We are friends. But then by the end of our visit, he would say, oh, she makes me so mad. She's still mean to me, and she's doing this and she's doing that. So, he didn't want me to be upset that he was getting bullied. Mm-hmm. And so he lied to me. So is that common behavior?
It is definitely. I was working in a high school setting, and a lot of the kids would be like, oh, don't tell my parents because I don't want them to be upset.
Oh my God.
And that's kind of going back to why especially parents should validate any type of feeling. Anger, frustration. If kids fear that they're going to get in trouble for that, then that is part of the negative stigma that we want to get rid of, right?
All right. Let me just take a break here so I can read what else we need to talk about.
I'm proud of you for sharing that story.
Thank you very much. That's so nice of you.
I know it's not easy. I can't imagine it's easy.
I actually reached out to one of them. So what happened was 2 of the boys, and I go into this in the book, but one of the boys, as soon as they started like untying my top, left. He was like, I'm out of here. I'm not going to be a part of this. Mm-hmm. The other 2 did not, and they finished what they came to do. But I contacted the guy who
took off.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking on Facebook Messenger, and I said, do you remember the day in the pool? And he never remembered it. And I told him the story, and he said, oh my God, I hope I wasn't one of those 3 guys. And I said, you were the guy that left? And he was so remorseful. And he said, I'm so sorry that happened. I should have done more. I should have stopped them. I should have told someone, something. I mean, did the lifeguard not even see what was happening? Like, what happened? But anyway, I mean, it felt good for me to tell him, I know what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like that, him saying at first, like, oh, I don't even remember, because for you, it was traumatizing. For him, it was just a random Tuesday.
It's like, I know exactly what that bathing suit looked like. Just like you in that math class in the front row, all the way to the right. You were taking notes. You remember that.
Yep.
I remember everything. I couldn't breathe. I was under the water. I was gasping for air. Meanwhile, all these basketball hands, do you know how big their hands are, right? And their arms are so long. It was just arms and hands everywhere, all over my body. Mm-hmm. I was being violated. I can still feel that today. It's just like everything about it. Ugh.
Yeah.
How can bullying affect a child's ability to learn and focus and pay attention to what they should be paying attention to?
Bullying affects self-confidence.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the confidence to have friends or feel like, you don't belong, then you won't have the confidence for anything else. You won't have the confidence to do well in school, right? Because you're so focused on, oh, why am I being treated this way?
Yeah.
And
you don't have the bandwidth to focus on what you should be focusing on.
Right.
You're not at peace. You're not relaxed. Mm-hmm. You never know what's coming next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the other thing too, being so hyper-focused on, oh, what is the next thing going to be?
Yeah.
You know,
How might bullying show up in a child's behavior?
definitely avoidance.
Mm.
If they don't want to go to school, if they don't want to go to class,
No.
avoidance is a big one. Kind of symptoms of depression. So the lack of self-confidence and not wanting to do things, not participating in the activities that they would normally want to participate
Sure.
in, not being very open, like not wanting to hang out with friends or do fun things, being very quiet is definitely one.
How can parents tell the difference between a rebellious, difficult child and a child that's hurting? Because a lot of the things you're saying could be either or.
That's a very good question.
Thank you.
If it's bullying, it's very sudden. If it's just rebellious teenage behavior, then that's kind of something that gradually happens.
Sure. What's your dream job?
To be a school clinician. So to provide therapeutic interventions to kids and adolescents in a school setting. Or being a school social worker where they do more like hands-on stuff. So like talking with parents, if there is a bullying situation, kind of handling that.
What do you do when you have a kid in school who's being bullied and he comes to you and you go to the parents and the parents are like, meh, and they're not helpful? What would you do in a situation like that? I guess you've just got to arm the kid with more tools.
Because it's happening in a school setting, that's more our responsibility. Unfortunately, even though the parent is like, nah, not a big deal. So my thing would be to validate their feelings and not really bring up the bullying situation, but kind of make sure that the parent is kind of aligning with like my intervention. So, for example, like, we talked about healthy coping skills, right? For when your kid's upset. Would you, be open to practicing this kind of thing at home? That could look like journaling, right? Writing down their emotions or kind of creating like a calming corner if they're so just dysregulated and they need to calm down for a minute, right?
Because I need that sometimes.
Yeah. No, we all do sometimes, right?
Heck yeah.
Like school social workers can't do their job unless parents are on board, unless teachers are on board, right? So it's a whole team effort. It's not just the social worker, or it's not just the teacher or the principal or the parent.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine most parents are on board nowadays. And I also imagine that most teachers would never behave in the way that you experienced. I would hope not.
No, even though teachers have a very, very hard job, I've not heard or seen anything
good,
not even near the situation that I lived through, which is a good thing. And I think I've noticed now, compared to when I was in school, that mental health is talked about more.
It is. I think it's important for people to be able to talk about their mental health, and we need to normalize it. How do you feel about being the person that you once needed?
It feels very rewarding.
Yeah.
I definitely, after finishing my master's degree, after finishing an internship at a school district that's underserved, I finally had like this moment of, this is what I am meant to do. I would like to do more with it. I don't just want to be a social worker and provide therapeutic interventions for kids with neurodevelopmental disabilities. I want to I don't know. It's a little extreme, but I want to change the world.
It's not extreme. That's amazing. I want to change the world. I want to change the world too. Me too.
Yeah. I love that. I want to change the world.
And then you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Not just someone's world, but I want to change the world. I want to change how people view certain issues. And if that means pursuing a doctorate in a few years and conducting my own original research.
What do you hope people listening take from our conversation?
It is okay to go at your own pace. It's okay.
Even if it takes 45 years.
Even if it takes 45 years, yes. There's no timeline for life, really. Don't be afraid of stigma. And it is hard to want to kind of hold back on those sort of things. But
I hear you. I hear, like, that's comforting to me. What you just said makes me feel very comforted.
Oh, good.
Because it is hard. And that was hard for me to say. And I'm choking up again. So that's very soothing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And anyone out there listening can do hard things.
You sound just like your mother.
Oh, really? That's good. That's
It
good.
is good.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah. So whether that's running 169 pounds, if you haven't listened to that episode, please do. It's a very good one.
Yep. That's Julie Rancourt. And she ran 169 towns in Connecticut, all 169 towns in Connecticut. So go through the library and find Abby's mom, Julie.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing not only your experiences, but your expertise. This was really enlightening, and it was very therapeutic for me.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Lisa.
Is there someone in your life who could benefit from this conversation? Please share it with them. It may be the support that they need. That's it for today. Thank you so much for sharing some of your day with us. And remember, we all have choice. Choose joy, choose peace, and don't be a miserable cow. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for spending this time with us on the Don't Be a Miserable Cow podcast with your host, Lisa Marshall. If you're looking for a little more guidance or encouragement, you can find Lisa's books, Find Joy, No Regrets, and Oh, Hello, Alzheimer's. And if you'd like to support the show or learn more about Lisa and her guests, visit us at joywithlisa.com.